everyone. I'd like to call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearings of today, March 25th, 2001. First order of business, the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of minutes of the PIC hearings held on March 11, 2021. Let me hear a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the hearing minutes of March 11th, 2021.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Sarah?
All signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Todd, if you could please instruct all the public how to request permission to add testimony to today's hearing.
Yes, during the action item for which you wish to speak, if you would just click the raise hand icon in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and commission staff will call on you when it's your turn to speak.
Thank you. First order of business, it is under our public hearings continued. Hearing number 1, on a petition by Vicinity Energy Boston Inc. for a grant of location to install new steam main infrastructure within the following public ways in South Boston: A Street between West 2nd Street and Neco Court, West 2nd Street generally between A Street and South Boston Hall Road. This was heard under new business on January 28th, public hearing on February 25th. As shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division, grant of location plan, Vicinity Energy, A Street, Neco Street, and West 2nd Street, Steam Main Extension, Boston, 25 sheets dated January 2021.
Go ahead, Don.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Don Sylvia on behalf of Vicinity Energy, speaking about our A Street Steam Main Extension project
His hand down.
that, as you stated, was brought before you in late January. At that time, we were asked to go back and address some
If you go into the
certain
right,
issues that the city wanted us to make sure that we had looked at. Since that time, we have further refined our traffic management plan and met with the traffic department at Hesford specifically to review our traffic management plan, and included in it a number of updates to address specific issues that certain members had. First issue that we addressed was we want to acknowledge that we will be required to adhere to the city's requirements for curb-to-curb road restoration and put the street back to the state that it was in when we began the work. The second issue was regarding MassDOT, and we continue to work with MassDOT through their process independent from the city. We're currently at the 25% phase. Next milestone for us with them is 75%. There were 3 issues regarding traffic management with the bus and the T that we have addressed in our traffic management plan and reviewed that with to make sure that we were up to speed there. And then construction phasing. Construction phasing, we acknowledge that we'll work hand in hand with the city to phase the construction at the direction to minimize any impacts that there may be out there. In regards to handicap parking, we also included that in our traffic management plan to allow for, if we do have to remove any handicap parking, to come up with alternate parking areas and make sure we have signage to allow for that. So there'll be no removal of handicap, just be relocation. Regarding the bike lanes, we've confirmed that we've minimized any structures that will be in the bike lanes along the route. As far as utility interfaces go, we have met with all of the neighboring utilities and have gotten back from them either approval or comment, and we continue to work with them and some of it will be during the construction phase, should there be any conflict. Regarding the 4 Point Neighborhood and West Broadway Neighborhood Associations, we took a meeting with them and we shared with them our traffic management plan and the locations of where the steam pipe route will be. We also talked with the neighborhood, the Department of Services, who I believe were to send a letter along that there were no conflicts or problems with the neighborhood. As far as the addition of the city shadow conduit, that's been added to the design, and that's in place. And I believe that was all of the items that were brought to our during the last meeting, and we're available. We have the team on board here. We're available for any questions or comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sylvia. Do you have a staff person or an engineer who can just show us at least a schematic plan of what you all are doing, because this is the public hearing?
Yes, Ken, can you put up the plan?
Ken Stanley here. Everybody hear me?
Yes, Ken, we can.
So the question being, you'd like to see the traffic plan?
No, your schematics, you need your limits of the project. Do you have anything that gives us the limits of the project?
Yes, I do.
I think it's just a locus plan.
Right. Apologize for not having this.
Thank you, Todd. Any comments or questions by fellow commission members at this point?
Sorry about that.
Hearing none. Any comments by PIC staff?
No, I believe Tom Reddy of the 4 Point Neighborhood Association would like to speak.
Tom, you can.
Thanks, Para. Tom Reddy here. Yeah, we had a productive meeting with the vicinity team. I'd only reinforce 2 points. One would be the construction sequencing. There's 2 narrow points along the construction path, if you would, where the road narrows down, and the construction will actually impede two-way traffic flow. And the only thing I'd ask for consideration would be coordination around those 2 points, and perhaps even consideration that they both be done simultaneously while traffic volumes are low. I think we'd all recognize that traffic volumes along A Street are still operating at pre-COVID conditions, and it would be fantastic to get that work done this year versus next. That would be one. And then the second would be that after the work is complete and the road is resurfaced, we'd ask BTD and Public Works to consider repositioning of the bike lanes from where they currently reside between Iron Street and Mount Washington, and have them put on the curb and buffered with parking. So those were the 2 points, Par. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for 2 things. One, being engaged with this project, and 2, taking time today to join us. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Liming, are there any other public comments at this point?
No, I don't see any other public comments. I will mention, however, that the Office of Neighborhood Services has submitted a letter of support for the project.
Thank you, Todd. At this point, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing continued item number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve petition by Vicinity Energy for a grant of location in A Street and West 2nd Street as read into the record by the chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Sylvia.
Thank you for your time.
Next item, public hearing number 2, that is under the continued section, on a petition by 46 Wyvern Limited Liability Company for the abandonment of any and all rights to travel the public way the public may have held within a portion of Grover Street, also known as Wyvern Street, which is a private way West Roxbury, located generally between Florian Street and Pittsmore Road. This was brought under new business on February 25th. The first public hearing was on March 11th, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Abandonment Plan, Wyvern Street, formerly known as Grover Street, at 46 Wyvern Street in Roslindale. One treated dated February 5th, 2021.
Good morning, members of the board. James Gallagher on behalf of 46 Wyvern Street LLC. As was just mentioned, we've been here, we continued from 2 weeks ago so we could talk to some of the neighbors. I believe the neighbors submitted a letter of no opposition this morning. And if Mr. Lyman can give me the power to present, I can show you just quickly to remind everyone.
Go ahead, Jim. You should be able to do that by clicking the Present Now button in the lower right-hand corner.
Yep, I'm just trying to. All right. Just make sure I can do these slides. There we go. This is the visual of the front of the house that is currently at 46 Wyvern Street, taken from Google. Just to give you some perspective, the houses on the left, as you look at this, are newly developed houses, and the house on the right, obviously, is an original house. The abandonment portion is just in the front, as shown in the plan that was submitted. This is an overhead plan. The abandoned portion is just the shaded portion right in the front. Is 138 square feet of the former Grover Street. This is a visual depiction using that Google map. It is literally just the tail end. As shown in the plan that we submitted, I'll just bump back a little bit. The parcel just to our west, northwest, had a significant portion of Grover Street that was abandoned back in 2017. The 138 square feet that my client wishes to abandon now is just really the tail end that was left over from that. Wyvern Street, as you see on the plan here, is obviously a paved, active public way. And again, this is just an overhead using Google to show you how it looks with the conditions on the ground right now. So pinning that, are there any questions from any of the board members?
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. At this point, Mr. Gallagher, I believe, did you participate in a community meeting on March 30th or thereabouts?
No, so March 30th is next week. The neighbors invited us to a neighborhood meeting next week.
My bad.
No, unfortunately, my client and I are not available on the 30th, but I responded to the neighbors this morning that, as my clients do in almost every development project, we are planning to meet with the neighbors. Once we complete our design and permitting, we will go out and have a neighborhood meeting to discuss the building that's going to go up. But just the 30th just doesn't work for either of us right now. So, but we will engage with them, and we have every plan to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. At this point, any comments or concerns by fellow commission members? Hearing none, PIC stop. Mr. Liming.
Mr. Frank O'Brien would like to speak. Go ahead, Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you. So as we provided on behalf of the residents and abutters, we appreciate the continuance that was granted for 2 weeks. It was very helpful. We gathered information. As indicated, residents understand much better now and are not in opposition to the abandonment. We did extend the invitation to come and meet virtually to give an update. If the indicated date doesn't work, we're very happy to work with the property owner and his representative's schedule. Would much rather meet in advance of any permitting rather than thereafter. So we'll be in separate communication with the proponent. Thanks again for everyone's help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for your engagement and your comments. Any other comments, Mr. Liming, at this point in time?
I will mention that the Office of Neighborhood Services has submitted a letter of support for this project as well.
Excellent, thank you. At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion regarding the public hearing continued item number 2.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by 46 Wyvern for the abandonment of any and all rights to any public travel within a portion of Grover Street, as read into the record by the chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we move to the public hearings segment of our today's agenda. Public hearing number 1 on a petition by 140 Clarendon LL Limited Partnership for the making of specific repairs within Clarendon Street, a public way, Boston proper, located on its southwesterly side at address number 140, southeast of Stewart Street, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavements, street lights, bike racks, storm water drainage infrastructure, and groundwater recharge infrastructure. This was brought under new business on March 11th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston, Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plans 140 Clarendon Street, Public Way, Boston, 2 sheets dated February 2021.
Hi, everybody. John, should I jump in?
Yeah, Darcy, please proceed.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for your time and hope everybody's doing well. On behalf of Beacon Communities, the Pine Street Inn, and other parties, I'm here with Niche Engineering and Rebecca Lee, our land use attorney, to talk about 140 Clarendon Street. I think I gave folks a pretty brief background on this last time we talked, but I'll just very quickly do that again. Whoever controls the slides, if you could just advance, Scott. Thanks. So I think as most folks know, the YWCA needed to put this building up for sale for a variety of reasons. Last year they had a sale lined up with a for-profit hotel buyer, which would have displaced everybody, all uses and everybody in the building. As a result of the pandemic, that sale dissolved, and it gave Beacon, Pine Street Inn, the City of Boston, and the State Department of Housing and Community Development an opportunity to really come together and say, what could we do here that would ensure that the existing cultural and educational uses can remain, and from a housing standpoint, what would have a citywide impact? So what we conceptualized and are working to effectuate is an affordable housing community with 210 apartments. 111 of those will be serving people that are currently experiencing homelessness through the Housing First program with extensive supportive services from Pine Street Inn. Obviously, historic preservation of the beautiful building, and then, as I mentioned, preservation of the cultural and educational uses to be able to stay there. We've had widespread community support and as well as support from the elected officials, and obviously working on this project in collaboration with DND, BPDA, and DHCD. So appreciate your support and thanks for everybody's help getting us to this point. I think I'll stop there and turn it over to John or Scott.
Thank you, Darcy. So the proposed improvements are within the Clarendon Street sidewalk. The sidewalk currently is a 12-foot wide, non-compliant concrete sidewalk. We are proposing to reconstruct this sidewalk to be compliant for accessibility purposes by providing an 8-foot wide concrete path of travel and a 4-foot pervious paver as required by the Complete Street guidelines. We are meeting and matching the work that is being performed by Trinity Place at the intersection of Stewart Street. Presently, there are 2 bike racks out there. We will be replacing those bike racks and adding 3 more. So there'll be 5 new bike racks within Clarendon Street. And we're also providing a concrete path of travel on private property to our rear entrance. The curb will be removed and reset. We will replace any broken curb, including the curb in leadstone. Scott, if you proceed to the next page. And the second action has to do with the recharge wells. We are capturing 1 1/4 inches of stormwater from the building footprint and storing that in a tank within the building, which will capture 1,444 cubic feet of water. And from there, that water will be pumped into 3 injection wells within the sidewalk located within the pervious paver zone. And then any additional runoff will discharge by gravity into the Boston Water and Sewer storm system. I'm open for any questions.
John, what is the status of the maintenance agreement?
I'll let Rebecca speak to that, or Darcy.
I'll let Rebecca chime in.
Hi, Ms. Lee.
Is Rebecca on?
She was here earlier.
Okay.
Ms. Jameson, if Ms. Lee is not here at this moment in time, please ensure that this maintenance agreement is executed, which will allow us to file these plans in the necessary places. Okay? So,
Can you say that again? You cut out just a little bit, please.
Sorry,
I heard, make sure it's executed, but then I didn't hear the rest.
help us to execute the maintenance agreement, which
Yes.
will help us to further process your application beyond the hearing.
Yes. Will
Thank
do.
At this point, any comments or concerns by fellow commission members?
Oh, good morning. I'm here on the phone. This is Denise Devlin from Boston Water and Sewer. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just want to make sure you can hear me. Thank you. I was actually wondering where you were on the BWSC site plan approval process.
Yeah, well, the plan's been submitted and we received comments last week, and we will be resubmitting the drawings for approval next week.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you.
Any other comments by commission members? Mr. Liming, any comments by PIC staff? No.
It looks like Christian Simonelli from the Boston Groundwater Trust would like to weigh in. Go ahead, Christian.
Hi, Christian.
Hi, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Hope all is well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask a very brief question today. Does the scope of work for this project extend and wrap around the corner onto Stewart Street, or is it confined to Clarendon Street?
For this application, is confined to Clarendon Street. The work the future improvements on Stewart Street will be performed by Trinity Place Development Projects.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that the well that's just around the corner on Stewart Street was preserved, but your work is not extending to that area, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So I'll go after the project down the street then to make sure that well is preserved. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, Christian. Hope
Good to see you.
Todd, Mr. Liming, any other further comments by the audience?
No, I see none.
Seeing or hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion regarding public hearing number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by 140 Clarendon LL Limited Partnership for the making of specific repairs in Clarendon Street as read into the record by the chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 2, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines of Old Colony Avenue, a public way, South Boston, located on its westerly side at address number 235 between Dameron Street and Washington Street. This was heard at a new business on March 11th, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Widening and Relocation Plan, Old Colony Avenue, Washington Village, South Boston, one sheet dated February 2021.
Great. So good morning, all. Mike Fitzpatrick with Samuels and Associates. I do have on with me today Rebecca Lee with Vince. I think she might be having some issues with her microphone, so that's probably why she couldn't chime in earlier. Also with me is John Schmidt from Niche Engineering and Guy Busa from Howard Stein Hudson. So thank you all for having us on this morning. Thrilled to be here. It's been a good amount of time that Samuels and Associates has stepped in and partnered up with Core Investments, and we spent that time evaluating the overall project next steps, and we're here specifically to review phase 1 of Washington Village. So I'm going to start by giving an overview of the development and hitting on a few key things, and then I will turn it over to John Schmidt to run through the various items related to the highway easement specific repairs and a few other things. So I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully everyone will be able to see this in a minute. Please let me know if you can see the presentation.
Yes, Mike, you can.
Great. So to start, this is the overall development plan for Washington Village. So it's a multi-building, multi-phase project that's spread over a 5-acre site. So we are specifically here to talk about the area that's highlighted in blue. So that is the phase 1 area that we'll be walking through the specific sidewalk and improvement areas around this particular building. And then everything that's to the left, so the west and south, would be part of a future phase. So the site plan itself for phase 1 in this interim condition. So this is the first building that we would build. It's a 214 unit. Actually, I'm going to take one step back. The overall development, so across this, it's roughly a million square feet, 746 residential units, and about 80,000 square feet of retail space. And then the phase 1 building itself, it's a 214 unit apartment building with ground floor retail, 20,000 square feet. And it would be the first building to be built. And then adjacent to it, we will be building as part of phase 1, the main public outdoor amenity space. And so this is something that we're building up front to bring the amenity to the neighborhood, and would have it as part of this initial development along with a of private drives and parking lots that will ultimately be woven into the future phase as well. And this is just a blow up to provide a better understanding of what the interim condition will be, because we have a significant amount of landscape and buffering and site screening and fencing around the perimeter. We have a temporary surface parking lot that we will be built to meet our parking needs until the future phase is constructed. And so our focus is going to be on the perimeter of the building, and specifically Damrell Street, Old Colony Ave, and Dorchester Street. And so we have, by way of coordination to date with various folks, so BPDA, BTD, and several others, looked at the placement of this building and actually slid the building down to provide for some additional right-of-way on Damrell Street, so that we can be consistent with what the long-term plans and goals are for Damrell Street, and how it ties into the overall .av plan. So that has been done up to now, and we continue to work through some mitigation measures as part of that. So what I'd like to do is turn it over to John Schmidt, and then he can walk around the perimeter of the building in each of the specific areas that we're here before you discuss.
Thank you, Michael. And we will take this in the order that it's in the agenda. So if you could bring us to the slide for the Old Colony Highway easement. So on Old Colony, actually we're going to rename this drawing widening relocation as requested by the city. And so the widening relocation on Old Colony will allow us to provide a public access, a public sidewalk that meets the complete street guidelines by also providing the pervious paver strip and the public street trees. The highway easement, the widening relocation in this area is about 4.75 feet wide. Any questions regarding this application?
Thank you, John. Questions or comments by commission members? PIC staff?
We're all set with this.
Hearing no further comments, I'd like to hear a motion to accept I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 2. I'm sorry, public hearing number
I make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the widening and relocation of existing right-of-way lines on Old Colony Avenue, as read into the record by the chair.
Do I hear a
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, public hearing number 3, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines of Damrell Street, a public way, South Boston, located on its southwesterly side, generally at the side of 235 Old Colony Ave, northwest of Old Colony Avenue. This was heard under new business on March 11, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Widening and Relocation Plan, Damrell Street, Washington Village, South Boston, one sheet dated February 2021. Mike, I think you can forego the overall explanation. John, if you can just go to the specific plan,
Thank you.
we
Thank
can move things forward.
Thank you, sir. So on Damrell Street, we're providing a 9-foot wide highway easement, and then that will allow for the future widening of Damrell that's in the city's master plan.
Thank you, John. Comments by commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PSC staff?
We're all set with this.
Like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 3.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines on Damrell Street, as further read into the record by the chair.
Second. I hope someone seconded it.
Second.
Brian.
Awesome. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 4, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines of Dorchester Street, a public way, South Boston, located on its northwesterly side, generally at the side of 235 Old Colony Ave, southwest of Old Colony Ave. This was heard at a new business on March 11th, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Widening and Relocation Plan, Dorchester Street, Washington Village, South Boston, one sheet dated February 2021.
Thank you. So again, we are widening relocation along Dorchester Street to provide a safe and accessible public access while reconstructing the sidewalk to comply with the complete street guidelines with pervious pavers and street trees. The width of this easement, the width of this widening is about 4.5 feet and runs the length of the property.
Thank you, John. Comments, concerns by commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PSC staff? At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion regarding public hearing number 4.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the widening and relocation of the existing right-of-way lines of Dorchester Street, as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 5, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the abandonment of any and all rights to travel the public may have had within a portion of Alger Street, which is a private way, South Boston, located on its southeasterly terminus generally at the rear of 235 Old Colony Ave, southeast of Dorchester Ave. This was heard under new business on March 11, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Abandonment Plan, Alger Street, Washington Village, South Boston, one sheet dated March 2021. John?
Yeah, so is Rebecca available? So this is a section of Alger Street that is a private way that we're seeking to abandon so we can incorporate it into the temporary parking lot in the temporary parking lot for phase one, as well as the future build out of the entire project.
Thank you, John. Comments, concerns by commission members?
Oh, hello, this is Denise Devlin again from Boston Water and Sewer. I just had a comment. I know this came up in the meeting the last time, so we didn't want to have, we just had that very small portion of the water main in that little abandonment there. We prefer to have it capped at the hydrant. And I know you're going to, right now, we don't have any information that there is. You show a service there on the drawing, but we don't believe it's there. There's no building there. But I know you're going to go out and eventually develop that.
So, so Denise, we had actually submitted on Tuesday 5 drawings for approval to cap that main, as well as we're going to propose relocating that hydrant about 18 feet. So those drawings are within water and sewer, and actually we're encouraging water and sewer to expedite that approval so we can continue with our on-site soil remediation work.
Okay.
So if you can do anything to help push that along, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, sure. No, that's fine. All right. So it's that's downstairs. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
John, I'm going to assume that you will do on behalf of your client all that needs to be done to appease the needs of the Water and Sewer Commission.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments by the commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PSC staff?
It'd be nice if the project would just speak to the rest of Elder Street and what the plan is for that. My understanding is the rest will be abandoned as well in the future.
That is correct. So I think we still don't have Rebecca with her microphone, but that is the long-term plan, is that we would abandon and then relocate Alger Street with the future phase 2 plan. And that is in process now, and there's been some materials that have been shared conceptually, and we will continue to advance that and providing that right of way as part of the future phase.
John, are you okay with that?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Excellent. At this point, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 5.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the abandonment in Alger Street, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, public hearing number 6, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in South Boston, consist of curb realignment, sidewalk and roadway reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavement, street lights, street trees, irrigation infrastructure, stormwater drainage infrastructure, bike racks, and driveway curb cuts. Old Colony Avenue on its westerly side at address number 235 between Damrell Street and Rochester Ave. Damrell Street on its southwesterly side, northwest of Old Colony Ave. Rochester Street on its northwesterly side, southwest of Old Colony Ave. This was shown, this was entertained under new business on March 11th, as shown on the set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plans, Damrell Street, Old Colony Ave, Rochester Street, Washington Village, South Boston, 5 weeks dated January 2021.
Thank you. So we are reconstructing all the sidewalks around the perimeter of the project to comply with the complete street guidelines. On Damrell Street, we are actually providing a flush curb down the center of the sidewalk, which will be the future curb line when Damrell is reconstructed. So we have we have the pervious pavers, we have the curb, concrete sidewalk, the flush curbs and pervious pavers, and then the sidewalk improvements and the street trees. So this has been reviewed and agreed to by Public Works, BPDA, and BTD. As we take the turn to Old Colony Ave, we are providing a 7.5-foot wide concrete sidewalk, a 4.5-foot frontage zone with street trees, street lighting and under drain as well. And as we turn to Dorchester Street, again, we are providing a 7.5-foot concrete sidewalk, a 4.5-foot frontage zone, new street trees, new street lights and under drains. The 3 streets are all been reviewed by the various city agencies and private utilities, and we have received blessings from all.
John, can you tell us the status of the maintenance agreement that would come along with this project?
I'll let Michael
This
speak.
is-
Rebecca.
This is Rebecca. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Lee, we can.
Yeah, I've reverted to old-fashioned telephone technology here. Apologize for not being able to answer your questions earlier. All of the required license agreements are in the hands of PIC Council, as they were with the prior item where I could not get my technology to work at 140 Clarendon Street. So we look forward to receiving his comments and finalizing them. And
Thank
then
you.
with respect to the question about Alger Street, that will be, as Michael said, will be a separate set of actions, and we will provide for BWSC easements within, for the interim period where it's not yet a public street.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Any comments or concerns by commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PIC staff?
Chung Lu with the Law Department just wanted to confirm that the project is working with him on these legal agreements.
Thank you. Hearing no further comments, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 6.
I make a
Make a motion.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the making of specific repairs on Old Colony Avenue, Damrell Street, and Dorchester Street, as further read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstained? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 7, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the granting of a projection license for an installation of a canopy over portions of sidewalks within the following public ways in South Boston. Old Colony Ave on its westerly side, generally at address number 235 at Damrell Street. Damrell Street on its southwesterly side, northwest of Old Colony Ave. This was heard at a new business on March 11th, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division, Canopy License, Damrell Street and Old Colony Ave, Washington Village, South Boston, one sheet dated February 2021. John.
Thank you. So these canopies at the intersection of Old Colony and Damrell Street will now project into the widening of these streets that was just approved several minutes ago. The canopies are minimally 10 feet above the sidewalk. They project on Damrell, they project about 4 feet into the highway easement, the widening, and on Old Colony, they project about a foot into the widening. They are heat traced and internally drained and designed in compliance with the city's guidelines.
Thank you, John. Comments by commission members or concerns? Hearing none. Comments by PIC staff?
All set with this one.
At this point, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 7.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the granting of a projection in Old Colony Ave and Damrell Street, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Last item on today's agenda, public hearing number 8, on a petition by Washington Village Property Owners LLC for the granting of an outdoor seating license for seasonal outdoor seating within the following public ways in South Boston.
New business project.
Old Colony Ave
2
on
weeks
its
ago.
westerly side, generally at address number 235 at Damrell Street.
Yeah.
Damrell Street on its southwesterly side, northwest of Old Colony Ave. This was heard under new business on March 11th, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Outdoor Dining Area, Damrell Street, Washington Village, South Boston, one sheet dated February 8, 2021.
Thank you. So the outdoor dining area consists of about 695 square feet that's within the public way. It is delineated with the bollard and chain detail, bollard and chains, as you can see in the detail. As requested at new business, we've added a center chain to that bulletin chain. And we've also added a note to the plan that wasn't since new business, indicating that at least 5% of the seating will be accessible.
Thank you, John. Comments by commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PSC staff?
It's worth noting that this is an outdoor seating license as opposed to a sidewalk cafe license. The project does not have a restaurant tenant lined up yet, so until a restaurant tenant is there, this will be open public seating, assuming it's constructed prior to the opening of a restaurant.
Does the petitioner recognize and understand those thought patterns, Howard?
I believe they should.
Thank you.
We do.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes.
Hearing no further comments by the audience, PIC staff, or the commission members, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 8.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Washington Village Property Owner LLC for the granting of an outdoor seating license in Old Colony Ave and Damrell Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mike, thank you so much. That concludes the public hearing segment of our
Thank you.
today's agenda. Now we will move to the new business section. First item under new business number 1, Hornet Street, Cohasset Street, Poplar Street, South Street, West Roxbury, specific on a joint petition by the Massachusetts State Transportation Authority, the City of Boston Transportation Department, and the City of Boston Public Works Department.
Hi all, I apologize. This is Matt Moran. I had trouble getting myself off mute, but good to see you all. I'm here today. I'll give a very brief introduction and then turn it over to our partners at McMahon, who will explain the details of this project. So the City of Boston and the MBTA are working collaboratively on 2 ADA accessible bus stops in Rosendale Village. One is on Poplar Street opposite Adams Park, and the other one is on Corinth Street at Cohasset Street near the Bank of America. So this project is the result of the MBTA and the City of Boston winning a Winter Shared Streets Award from MassDOT. And so there's a little bit of a catch here, which is we have to spend the grant money by the end of May. That's part of the reason why we are hoping to sort of move this process as quickly as possible. With that said, we've been in close coordination with Rosendale Village Main Streets, all of the abutters along these 2 streets. We've been in coordination with the construction company at the Rosendale Public Library, which is, as many of you know, under construction now. And then we've been coordinating internally. So closely with the Disabilities Commission, the Public Works Department, the Boston Water and Sewer, PIC staff, BTD Engineering, BTD Active Transportation, just to make sure we don't miss anything with these 2 bus bump outs. In addition to making the bus stops compliant, these 2 bus bump outs will also enable buses to operate more efficiently through this area. As you might know right now, the buses that are making a left from Corinth Street onto Washington do so from the far right lane, given where the bus stop is today. And by moving the bus stop a little bit further back, we'll be able to make buses, or give buses more of a chance to make that left turn a little bit more efficiently than what they do today. So that is the big picture overview of these 2 projects, and I can turn it over to McMahon and Associates, who can sort of give more of a technical overview of these 2 projects and the parameters behind them.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for your tremendous leadership on projects of this nature. It's such a joy.
I appreciate that.
And thank you, Matt, for the introduction. So I'm Connor Murphy from McMahon Associates. So I'm going to go into the specifics on the 2 curb extensions. So as Matt talked about, we are looking at Corinth Street and Poplar Street in the Rosendale Square area. So I'm going to dive right into Corinth Street, and then I'll move to Poplar Street and go into the specifics there. So let's set this up so I don't have to zoom that much. The proposed curb extension at Corinth Street, it's a 6-foot wide curb extension from the existing curb line right now, and designed to run from the far side of Cohasset Street, about 150 feet down Corn Street until it ties back in with the existing curb line. There are 2 bus berths at the proposed curb extension, as you can see shown on the plans. The street lighting that is existing along the street has been proposed to be relocated to the front of the curb extension based on coordination with the City of Boston Street Lighting Group. And then the street light that is currently basically within the ramp going across Corinth Street at Cohasset is also being relocated further away, so that way it's we have more of a compliant ramp there, and the street light's pushed away, again, based on coordination with Street Lighting Group. We're proposing a shelter at towards the front of the bus stop, or between the front bus stop and the second bus berth. And it was placed so as not to block the entrance to the Bank of America that is shown here between the 2 bus berths. And then also avoid existing tree pits and other street furniture that exist on Corinth Street right now. The Parks Department has agreed to close the empty tree pit that we are placing this on top of to allow for the placement of the shelter in this location, just to note that. And then we are proposing a raised crossing going across Cohasset Street based on coordination with Public Works, BTD, Disabilities Group, to address design issues that are out here, including the alignment of the ramps and path of travel across Cohasset Street, as well as grading issues with the building entrance into Bank of America here and the curb extension. The raised crossing was the most desirable design solution here. Just to note, Cohasset Street is a one-way street heading from Corinth Street up Cohasset and out, so there won't be any reciprocal traffic coming that way. The angled crossing that you can see here in the plans was coordinated with Boston Public Works, so that was something they requested, so we've provided that. And then grading has been in pavement reconstruction has been proposed as such to allow for a gutter line and drainage to take place from the near side of Cohasset to the far side of Cohasset, where it ties in with the curb extension. So those are the specifics there. And then the ramp 2, as shown on this plan, is also being reconstructed to provide an ADA compliant curb ramp across the street. And the specific design that's used for this ramp has been coordinated with Public Works Department, is something they requested on here. So I'll start with Corinth Street. Are there any specific questions with what we're showing on Corinth Street?
Connor, really a silly question. I'm 99.999% certain that you have knocked on the doors of 795 Corinth Street, right? I mean, the Bank of America people know about this. Thank you, Matt. Silly question, just for the record.
Great.
It's an important question, though.
Any comments by commission members before Mr. Murphy goes to the next location? Connor, next.
All right, we'll move on. Great. So then Poplar Street. Let me set this up a little bit more. In here a little bit. All right, so similarly, Poplar Street. The curb extension here is 5.5 feet wide rather than 6, just to account for some drainage structures that are located along Poplar Street, and that's been coordinated with Boston Public Works and Water and Sewer. The proposed curb extension is a bit longer, about 200 feet or so, and that's to account for the left turns that Matt mentioned earlier from South Street into Poplar Street, and just the turning movements that are required to make that turn, and where we'll tie back into the existing curb line midway down Poplar Street. Same thing, 2 bus berths in this location, located towards the front of the extension to allow for the traversing into those 2 bus berths. Street lighting that currently exists in an existing brick strip in the middle of the Poplar Street sidewalk, so kind of creating 2, like a back of sidewalk and a front of sidewalk path of travel. The street lights that are in that area have been proposed to be relocated to the front of the curb extension based on coordination with the street lighting group, as well as the addition of a street light in the existing bump out at the corner of South Street and Poplar Street. So that is something that we've coordinated with with street lighting, and that they wanted to add in there. The design has been proposed as shown to improve the accessibility along Poplar Street by removing as many stepped entrances as possible at the back of sidewalk. There are currently 5 of them. So we've removed 4 of the 5 where we can. Otherwise, the remaining entrances within our project area are flush already with the back of sidewalk. So we are keeping those there. There is support from Public Works to retain the aesthetics of the existing brick areas and the tree zones along Poplar Street. So the pedestrian desire lines have been more or less predetermined within this area as we are currently showing. So we have raised brick areas, and I'll zoom in a little bit just for ease of sight. Raised brick areas adjacent to the second bus berth, shown here and here, to enable an accessible path of travel from the front of the sidewalk, or the front path of travel where the bus stops are, to the back of sidewalk where the entrances to the buildings are currently. And this is based on existing grading challenges, but then also coordination with Public Works, Disabilities, and the MBTA that have all been helpful to get this design where it is right now. Additionally, the ramps 3, 4, 5, and 6, basically crossing Poplar Street and South Street, as we're showing, are showing as being reconstructed to improve the alignment of those the curb ramps across the street, and that's been in coordination with Public Works and BTD to improve the alignment of those. And where we're not showing proposed curb ramps, we've already gone out and determined that those curb ramps are compliant. So the remaining ones on Taft Hill and South Street are compliant. So that's why they are not being shown to be reconstructed. And then there are also 2 other areas of brick that I'm showing here on either side of this kind of bench living room concept that Matt and his team have requested. So those are flush. Those are not raised as the sidewalk is basically flush from back of sidewalk to the front of the curb extension to the north of the tree pit that is shown right here. That is the general layout. Are there any questions on what we are showing with Poplar Street? I'm just going to zoom out a little bit.
Quick question, Matt, which agency is going to build this stuff? Is it MBTA or us?
The MBTA.
Okay, so amazing project. Questions, comments by commission members?
I just wanted to quickly comment that we appreciate the team's collaborative effort with both the Mayor's Commission for Persons with Disabilities as well as the TU system-wide accessibility team to increase accessibility both to the sidewalk and to the budding businesses.
Thank you for your help as well, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. And again, Matt, thank you for what you do. Any other comments by commission members? Mr. Liming, do we have anyone in the audience who wants to say anything?
No, none.
Okay, that being said, I guess we can mark this thing up for April 15.
Great. Again, thank you for everyone for the help as we've gone through this whole project. So we will
see you on April 15th.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Second item under new business, 1700 and 1710 Dorchester Ave, King Street, Dorchester. Pedestrian easements and specific repairs on a set of petitions by Shipway Development, LLC.
Good morning. My name is James Downing from Howard Stein Hudson. We're the project engineers, also joined this morning by Maddie Blanchard from Howard Stein Hudson, who is going to share her screen. Also joined by Patrick Mahoney, manager from Shipway Development, LLC, who is the petitioner, and also David Reed, who's the project architect. The project is located at 1700 and 1710 Dorchester Avenue. Project consists of the construction of 2 4-story buildings with mixed-use development, including 36 residential units with 20 off-street parking spaces. It also includes approximately 1,500 square feet of ground floor commercial space as well. Maddie, can you go on to the next slide, please? So the improvements within the public way along Dorchester Avenue include new sidewalk, reconstruction with including curb realignment to establish a wider pedestrian facilities and also to improve safety. Also includes the permeable paver installation, relocated streetlights, and also the closure of an existing curb cut. Because of the widening of the sidewalk, the petitioner is also going to grant the city a pedestrian easement along the frontage of Dorchester Avenue. Next slide, please, Maddie. This is the improvements in a public way outside of 1710. I probably should have mentioned beforehand, the King Street kind of separates the two buildings. So we're looking at the prior slide was 1700 and this is 1710. But the improvements are the same in the sense of we're doing curb realignment to allow for the installation of new bike station in front of the building. Also new pedestrian ramp reconstruction, because of which at the back of the landing, the client's also going to grant a small pedestrian easement to allow for people to access that ramp as well. Also includes new streetlight relocation and also the reconstruction of the existing head ramp across Dorchester Avenue. Along on King Street also includes new bike rack installation, closing up existing curb cuts, allowing for new curb cuts as well, and also a brand new cement concrete sidewalks. A draft CMP has been submitted to BTD for approval. Patrick Mahoney, who's also the project attorney, is currently working on the LMI agreement with the Commission's Council, with the goal of having that finalized before the next public hearing. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much for that very thorough presentation. Quick question, James. Some of your bay windows, I couldn't quite see whether that is within your property line limits or whether that was protruding into the easement area you were giving the city. Can you clarify?
Everything's that is outside of the pedestrian easement, correct? Everything's within the property and also outside of the pedestrian easement further back.
Basically, it is, if an icicle forms, it's not going to land on my head.
Correct. Yep.
So, thank you so much.
Sure.
Any comments or questions by fellow Commission members? Hearing none, shows how wonderful our people have done, Mr. Downing. Comments by PIC staff?
No members of the public, but I will mention that this project will include 2 separate LMIs, one for each building, as well as 2 separate easement grants, one for each building.
Excellent. Thank you, Todd. Thank you for pointing that thing out. Hearing no further comments, we'll mark this thing up for 3 weeks for April 15th. Does that work for you, Mr. Downing?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Wonderful. We'll see you in 3 weeks.
Great.
Next item on the agenda, new business number 3, 178 Gardner Street, Charles Park Road, West Roxbury, for a pedestrian easement and specific repairs on a set of petitions by the WBA Townhouses LLC.
Morning, James Downing again, Howard Stein Hudson, joined by Maddie Blanchard, also from Howard Stein Hudson Project Engineers, joined again this morning by petitioner Peter Davios, principal from WBA Townhomes LLC. We're here to present the specific repair plans and the pedestrian easements for a proposed development at 178 Gardner Street, located in West Roxbury. The project site is bounded by Gardner Street to the north and also by Charles Park Road to the south. The project consists of the construction of 2 3-story buildings consisting of 18 townhomes with 36 off-street parking spaces. Maddie, if you can go on to the next slide, please. So the public improvements within Gardner Street include the widening of the sidewalk to 7 feet. Because of this, a pedestrian easement will be granted along the entire frontage of Gardner Street. Also includes closing up of 1 large curb cut, brand new cement concrete sidewalks along Gardner Street, and also the relocation of an existing fire hydrant that's currently at the back of sidewalk will now be moved to 18 inches off the front face of curb. And also we're providing a clear path to travel between any other utilities within the furnishing zone. Next slide, please. Charles Park Road would be more of a unique situation here. Historically, the property line actually extended to the midway of Charles Park Road. However, back in the 50s, a PIC action was granted to allow for a large easement, basically going from the midway of Charles Park Road currently to the property line, which on this plan is basically, I don't know if you can zoom in, Maddie, which is approximately 15 feet back from the proposed back sidewalk. So because of this, the improvements here within the PAC easement will be the continuation of the existing sidewalk today, approximately 30 feet down to where the new proposed crosswalk is. We will also be retaining that existing one street tree that's currently in the sidewalk. And also we will be planting 11 new red oaks within that landscaped area. Both a TAPA and CMP have both been submitted to BTD. And again, Joe Hanley from MGM is the project attorney, is currently working on the LMI agreements with the intent of having these finalized before the next public hearing. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you, James. I'm somewhat familiar with this area, especially with Gardner Street for quite some time. That street, I appreciate you improving the sidewalk experience for your clients or the project developers' clients. The road in itself may have seen better days. I don't quite recall the condition of that road, Gardner Street, and I believe it's a one-way street that heads towards VFW Parkway, if my memory serves me correct, right? I forget whether it's a one-way street or a two-way street. Anyhow, the road is in a challenging state, and I think it might get further challenged with the work that you are doing and or any utility cuts or utility supports that are needed, because I'm going to assume all the utilities are coming off either Gardner or the other street and not off VFW Parkway, which is controlled by the state. Would you clarify where your utility connections are going to be to support the houses?
Sure, that is correct. We have utility connections, sewer and water will be coming off Gardner Street. There is a drainage connection out on Charles Park Road.
So I guess the point I'm trying to share with you is those, especially Gardner Street, has seen better days, and this is, I would say, has seen better days. Is how it is, and it's going to make it more challenging. And I'm just trying to understand how the eventual users of these properties might be concerned about the front door of Gardner Street.
Yeah, I can let Peter Davios, who's on the call, potentially answer that for you. I think the intent is to use Gardner Street as the front entrances to these properties with utility cuts that we are making out there. They are small, just for the new water and for the new sewer. Those will be repaved, obviously. Right now, we're just about to get site plan approval from Boston Water and Sewer. It's not a guaranteed street. I don't know if there's any other intent to repave Gardner Street in the future, but I think that's all that's planned right now.
So as long as sorry, I apologize. I think the developer was going to say something.
Yeah, Todd, I think Peter Davios has raised his hand to speak.
Todd, could you facilitate Mr. Davos to speak?
Yep. Go ahead, Peter.
Good morning, Para. It's Peter Davos.
Hi, Peter. Good to hear your voice.
I think, James, if it would assist me in my efforts if you had an overall view of the entire site. With regard to your concerns about Gardner Street, in general, we're closing all the curb cuts on Gardner Street. As you correctly stated, Gardner Street is one way. Project vehicle access, egress, and exiting is 100% onto Charles Park Road, which gives the residents the ability, when they arrive at VFW Parkway, to travel north or south on the parkway. I think it's actually an improvement on the frontage of the sidewalk, given that there'll be no curb cuts. And we are additionally, I don't know if James mentioned it, we are moving a fire hydrant back to its proper location off the gutter. So pedestrian travel will be improved, the width of the sidewalk will be improved, and as he stated, a portion of our utilities and mechanical connections are coming from Gardner Street, and a portion are coming from Charles Park Road.
All right, Peter, as long as we jointly understand that the city doesn't have resources to go always pave its 800 miles, and if Gardner, I don't know when Gardner is on our rotation of streets that needs attention, so there may be some time where Gardner will continue to look as it is further challenged by your project, and just hope that you all don't expect us to come and pave that street in the near future, because I don't know what that cycle is.
I can share some additional information, having been involved with the development of 1235 VFW Parkway, which was the Oak Row building, Para.
Yeah.
Shortly after the completion of that project and the widening of the sidewalks on the entire length of Gardner Street, Boston Water and Sewer did some maintenance or replacement work across the entire length of Gardner Street, and I think it was a water main upgrade. So aside from our disconnects of the existing buildings and our connects of the new buildings, there will be some additional asphalt cuts, but they're all in great shape as of today.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Truly appreciate you all breathing some life into that neighborhood, or to that area, bounded by, oh, for the love of God, I can't remember the...
I'm old enough to remember the drive-in and when Gardner Street was...
Peter, we go back too long. Okay, so exciting project. I'm laboring this thing too long. Any further comments by commission members?
I also want to thank the project team for working with both myself and Jill Zick from the BPDA through both the Article 80 and the PIC process to bring more accessibility to both Charles Park and Gardner Street.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Any comments by PIC staff? Hearing none, I think
All set.
All set, great. So we'll mark this thing up for 3 weeks. April 15th, does that serve for you? Does that work for you?
Yes, Paul, thank you.
Excellent. Peter, good to hear you. James, good to see you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, new business number 4, 1 Winthrop Square, Boston proper. Specific repairs on a petition of NFL SRA 1 Winthrop Square LLC.
All right, good morning. This is Chris Honey with Niche Engineering, and I'm here with Paul Asmar of Nanfeng. Paul, you there?
I am, thank you, and we appreciate you taking time out this morning for us.
Paul, if you give a brief overview, and then I'll jump into the plans.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and again, thanks to the commission for giving us time on the calendar here to get us ready, hopefully, to present. So, 1 Winthrop Square, so I represent the owner, Nanfeng Life Sciences Real Estate, bought the building last year under renovations, interior renovations for both existing and new tenants. So we are really excited about the building and all the opportunity going around our building. We, based on the renovations, we needed to do work based on Boston Water and Sewer. I'll let Chris about that, and part of that was these 3 recharge wells that will go into Winthrop Square here that you're seeing on Chris's map. So that supports what we need to do for the overall plan. I'll turn it back to Chris, unless Chris, you need me to say something else.
Nope, I'm good to go. Anyone got any questions before I jump in?
Thank you, Paul. Chris, you're on.
Thank you.
All right. So just the project site itself, we have Devonshire Street and Otis Street, and the Winthrop Square Park, which we have certainly talked about before here at PIC. That work that's currently underway is by others. Nan Fung is not associated with that work. I just want to make that clear because I know that there are a lot of projects going on in this area right now. This area is currently the laydown area for the project being built across the street. So these 3 proposed wells that we are proposing will be within the limits of the work of that project. So we have that overlaid on the background. So the existing conditions that you're seeing here, this blue curb line, is, I mean, there's really no curb out there today. This is the curb that will be there when this project is complete. Just sort of establishing that existing condition. So the wells themselves, the site isn't in the groundwater overlay district. However, we do need to meet the Boston Water and Sewer requirement for 1 1/4 inch recharge. So to do so, there are hollow sidewalks on Otis Street and on Devonshire Street, and then even extending in front of the building along the Winthrop Square Park. So the only real place where we are able to fit these wells in the vicinity of the building is within the park itself, rather than in the sidewalks that surround the building. So the current proposed plan is there is a recharge tank within the one Winthrop Square building that will pump out to these 3 recharge wells within the park, which will then overflow to the combined sewer right about at the Otis Street curb line. So I'll open up to any questions.
Sorry. Thank you, Chris. Comments by commission members? Hearing none. Comments by PIC staff?
All set.
Thank you. Paul, Chris, are you guys okay with us hearing your petition at the public hearing in 3 weeks? Which would be an opportunity.
Great.
One could see you all 3 weeks from today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Next item, new business number 5, 525 Lincoln Street, Cambridge Street, Brighton, specific repairs on a petition by Albright Realty, LLC.
Good morning, Steve Materano with Bowler. Sorry, I got shifted in the agenda, so I was not sure where we were anymore. But thank you for having us here today. We've got the Common Albright project at 525 Lincoln Street. On the call with me today is Andrew Copolati and Benji Mole, who are the co-owners of the project and applicants with Albright Realty. And then we also have Paul Rufo, Smith, Duggan, Buell, and Rufo as our project counsel. So just to give you an overview, I can share my screen and just do a brief overview. There's a lot of streetscape going on and a couple different treatments that we're doing. So I think just some architectural rendering images will help tell the story. So just let me share. There we go. So once you have that, this is just a rendering that shows you the building itself. Cambridge Street in the foreground and Lincoln Street wraps around the building here. Sorry, I'll give you the statistics on the project. So it's a 6-story co-living residential building, 80 total units, 30 garage parking spaces that access off of Lincoln Street. Pretty heavy secure bicycle parking demand on this product type. So we have 278 secure bicycle parking spaces and a new 19-station blue bike station being incorporated as well. And I'll show you where all those pieces fall on the plans. Just to orient folks with the site, so this is the project site. It's a little bit of this green space, but mostly just an existing surface parking lot with really just a pretty limited streetscape going on around the property. So we have pretty tall order and ask. So far as we looked into setting some precedents here, because there's not some existing streetscape to build off of, we're really creating from scratch on this property. Cambridge Street Going east-west here, you can see it's rising from the intersection of Lincoln Street up and over, and you can see a bridge abutment here. And this is the Mass Pike at the bottom of the page here. So Cambridge Street rises quite a bit along this stretch. So clearly we have some elevation challenges to design into this streetscape here, and then Lincoln Street wrapping around the back of the property this way. So I just wanted to share this. So we've been through the Article 80 large project review on the project, and obviously a robust conversation of the streetscape there. These comments were really our last round of the Boston Civic Design Commission process, and they tasked a couple of things that I thought were relevant and worth discussing. One, like I said, creating a walkable prototype, right? It's not very inviting today. How do we create the walkable prototype that other developments coming in this stretch of Cambridge Street can follow or at least draw pieces from? Really create that urban block experience as well, to break down that experience and make it a better urban experience along the stretch. And then some architectural comments, but really, again, setting the precedent for the area here. How did we do that? So this is an overall view. This view includes the project site, which ends here. And then there is a community space that we spent a lot of time figuring out how the project interacted with that community space off to the left here. So you can see how we've addressed this at a high level. We have complete streets elements being pervious pavers, introducing street trees where there are none today, that minimum 5-foot sidewalk widths all around the property. We have generally 6.5-foot sidewalks up to 8-foot sidewalks in Cambridge Street. As you come around the corner of Lincoln Street, these are 8-foot sidewalks, kind of that heavier pedestrian zone coming through this area. And then similarly, 6 to 7-foot sidewalks along the remainder of Lincoln Street. Some of the things we heard early on with our conversations with BTD, as well as the community, were Lincoln Street is a very fast road, needs some traffic calming measures. It's wider than a typical street, and what can we do there? So kind of a unique opportunity to bring this curb line out here on this corner, and I can zoom in here, but we got some more detailed plans. Today, the curb line really follows the property line really in here tight, a big sweeping turn that doesn't encourage people to slow down at all coming around this corner both ways, coming into Lincoln Street and leaving. So we took the opportunity to bring this curb line out, narrow this roadway to 24 feet, a more typical roadway width, give us the opportunity to introduce a pedestrian crossing here, and then create wider sidewalk zone, create space for this blue bike to have a little bit of unique treatment where we can do a raised landscape island in the middle, have sort of your utilitarian sidewalk, or more the heavy pedestrian flow has an 8-foot sidewalk that wraps around the outside, and then we have this sort of dedicated sidewalk area that is more your transactional blue bike zone where folks are returning and getting their bikes outside of the typical flow. So taking some opportunities to do both the implement some of those things we heard early on, or traffic calming. One of the other traffic calming was encouraged by BTD, and it's repeated in the Alston-Brighton mobility study, is they use the term chicaning the parking at times, or switching the parking from one side to the other in certain zones along Lincoln Street. Again, another traffic calming measure. So we're taking the parking that is currently on the north side of Lincoln Street, we're moving it to the south side of Lincoln Street. Again, it works well when we bump this out to shorten the pedestrian crossing, and then that's the only indent to allow for that parking lane. And I'll cover more of the specifics. I just wanted generally to show you how the site plan laid out. Couple images here just of how we accomplished those goals. This is on Cambridge Street, Lincoln Street's intersections right here. Looking up that, and then you can see we take just a sort of a blank canvas sidewalk And you can see that urban core being developed with the project you have. And I can zoom in a little bit here. You have, the street tree zone with some new lighting that we're introducing, the pervious paver strip, a minimum of 5-foot sidewalk behind that. And then there's more publicly accessible space that's a series of plazas to, thoughtfully engage that grade change as you go up and over the bridge here on Cambridge Street. And I've got next image is a little more zoomed in. So this is the feel. If you're walking up Cambridge Street, you have these are on the private property. And again, you've got the sidewalk in the right of way, the street tree zone, and you'll have some decorative lighting that's not in these graphics, but it is on the formal PIC plans. But you have 4 of these terrace zones as you step up Cambridge Street, and then we have a series of, up the top is an accessible way into the top level, and then you have some stairs to accommodate the grade change. Again, looking from closer to the bridge, looking down Cambridge Street, this is one of the main entrances into the building. Again, similar transition where you have some steps on the right side and then it flushes out up the top for the accessible component. And then that's just looking down at some of those terraces. This is the other corner of the building. So this is Cambridge Street on the top left here, and then Lincoln Street wrapping around the building. This is where we had the ability to pull the curb line out and introduce that pedestrian crossing. And you can just see the streetscape developing and wrapping a little more of that urban plaza environment at the entrances, and then the more traditional streetscape as you turn the corner and continue up Lincoln Street, where it becomes a little more of a pedestrian feel. And by pedestrian feel, this is what I mean. It's a little more green and open and less of the hardscape elements. Again, sidewalk and street zone in the public right-of-way. This is publicly accessible space, but it's on the private property. Gives a nice respite zone, a couple of benches, but really just introducing a larger green element in place of what's just a underutilized surface parking lot today. So we think a great transition in this area. And that's really just the graphical images. Hopefully that give you a feel for what we're showing on these plans. I think getting into the specific repairs, and again, we're here for specific repairs on Cambridge Street and Lincoln Street is the petition. We show the street lighting, which is a standard 90-foot street lighting, which there is none there today, so we're not replacing any. The ones that exist in the island today remain. The street lighting was probably our most robust conversation we've had in the recent weeks, getting ready to present to the commission today. Street lighting in this area is overtaxed. They didn't really have capacity in the system based on all the improvements that Boston Lighting's been doing in the area, as well as some of the development that's occurred. So they didn't have the ability to add lights. So what we've had to work out with them is introducing a new control cabinet so they can pull a new power source in off of Lincoln Street, do a control cabinet here, and we have to introduce an additional street light here as their control light. These serve 2 purposes. One, for the project purposes, it lets us put in the lighting around the property. But more importantly, to be Boston Lighting, is it gives them the ability to continue expanding their network in the area. There's some other projects proposed in the area. There's potential sort of longer-term vision of development on the opposite side of Cambridge Street when the I-90 project comes through. There could be a new development parcel that's introduced there that was studied as part of the BCDC process as well, as how we relate to that. So we have conduits stubbed out for Boston Lighting, actually right here, stubbed out for their future extension of their system across the street. So very robust conversation and back and forth with them to figure out where those components need to be and what was most helpful to their system and how to service the lights that we're proposing here. So 12 new street lights in total, 11 around the project, and then the 1 control light. Street trees, again, a relatively standard 30-foot spacing for the most part around the perimeter. That's 24 new street trees where there are none today, so a great improvement there. We have the shadow conduit for the smart utilities, so we have shadow conduit chasing the lighting conduits for future fiber. Again, that wraps the entire project, which is almost all street frontage. We only have a few feet on the very left side of the project that's not street frontage. So big improvements there. The utilities, as far as stormwater, actually works out well. Incorporating that public green space, we have the opportunity to do our full Boston Water Sewer 1.25 inch infiltration system on site, so not in the public right of way. And then there will just be an overflow connection out to the city system. We have application into Boston Water and Sewer, a site plan for site plan approval. It's under review. We've gotten some recent comments from Commissioner Devlin as well as the staff reviewers. So we think we're close to getting a Boston Water Sewer approval. We also have our license and maintenance agreement is in process. There's been some coordination between our council and the PIC council. So again, that's in process. We submitted a draft construction management plan as well with our application. So that is in process. And just one other technical thing is on the paving side, we are milling and overlaying the entirety of Lincoln Street. So a little bit past our project site for some utility connections, full curb to curb, and wrapping all the way around. Sorry, it's not on the screen, but all the way around and doing the entirety of Lincoln Street. Even there's a existing median in Lincoln Street. We are doing both sides up to this line here. So that's all detailed on the plans as well. And just one more point, just relative to roadways and traffic mitigations that the project's committed to. There's a couple contributions, some ongoing and some one-time contributions. There's a one-time contribution to the adjacent park, which pin over here. So just off to the left here, we have some artwork that's on our project site accidentally. We're relocating that to the park and then doing some maintenance on the park, and also a contribution there for ongoing maintenance. There's a monthly contribution committed to for a upcoming shuttle program. So again, helpful to traffic on the roads and get people utilizing shuttle systems and alternative transportation modes. And then a $10,000 contribution. We mentioned the Alston Brighton mobility study that had some of these traffic calming measures that we're implementing with this project, but a $10,000 additional contribution for further Alston Brighton mobility study implementation. So some of the traffic calming on Lincoln Street could be a potential use of that money, but other improvements coming just outside of the scope of our construction. So with that was a lot, and sorry to run through it all. I was just trying to get through all the information. Happy to answer specifics on the details on this plan or any general questions, and obviously the team's available to answer questions as well.
Stephen, thank you so much for such a thorough presentation, and my compliments to you and your team. Well done. Very rarely am I lost for words here. Just one tiny little things. I mean, you hit all the high points. The stoplight, Steve, at Cambridge and Lincoln, the stoplight, the traffic signal. I think some of the sensors that are there on the roadway may be a little bit challenged. The light may not work in the most optimal fashion as needed to support your project plus ongoing things. It might be useful, Steve, for you to have a conversation with the transportation department. Amy Collin is obviously, a commission member here, to see if the sensors on the main road, which is especially the left turn lanes on Cambridge Street, I think sometimes the lights come on even without any cars. And the fact that you're resurfacing Lincoln Street will require you to reposition or enhance the sensors. And these sensors are the roadway the loops that are on the road that tells the traffic signal, hey, there's a car, okay? So it's not a big lift, but since you are introducing more traffic to that intersection, it will be in your interest and the city's interest to make sure that the stoplight there works properly.
We will take a look at that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just connect with Amy Cording and her team. I'm sorry, Ms. Cording may add or subtract what I'm saying, but quite familiar with this area. Absolutely thankful for what you're doing. This is amazing work, and we just want to make sure that your work plus what the city can or cannot do still ends up with what is being needed. So that being said, entertain questions or comments by fellow commission members. Okay. No comments. From PIC staff?
We're all set. We have a few comments on the needed LMI agreement, but we'll work that out with PIC Council and the Projects Council.
Awesome. Steve, thank you so much, especially for the work which you're doing on the street lighting, because we all recognize these are challenged areas. And Cambridge Street, because it is running on a slope and the city is planning on putting a bicycle lane on the opposite side. So everything which we can do to improve the safety aspect, plus absorb your project, are all steps in the right direction.
Great. Thank you very much.
Great. We will mark you up for 3 weeks from today, which would be April 15th.
Very
See
good.
you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda for new business, item number 6, Bartlett Street, Lambert Avenue, Gill Street in Roxbury, widening and relocation, specific repairs on a set of petitions by Bartlett Place Land, Inc.
He's nice enough, but God,
Good late morning. Imad, I believe you are trying to share your screen, but we can't hear you. Todd, can you help?
Yep, right there. Imad. Left. Imad, the red microphone button towards the bottom of your screen. Yep, right there. Just click it once. Single click. One more time.
Todd, do you have the plans that you can present or share? That will
Yeah,
Imad to.
I think he can pull the plans up all right. He just can't talk.
Ouch. That would be awkward.
This is David Linhart with Wilson & Stores Council, and I can assist depending if Imad's able to work out the technical issues, but happy to talk about basically a return to the commission today after having come back in 2015, so a long stretch between.
Thank you, David, and I hope you don't mind us not having photographic recollection of whatever we chatted back in 2015.
And I can talk it through in words as well, if helpful. I just wanted to, I didn't want to jump in too quickly.
To keep things moving forward, to keep things moving, David, you may want to comment while Mr. Lyman.
Yeah, I'll dive in. So again, David Linhart with Wilson & Stores. Thanks for making space for us on the agenda today. Imad Zareen will join shortly to discuss the specifics of why we're here today, the overall site, and a little bit of background. This is a project put forward by Nuestra in Dudley Square. It's a 9-acre site that was formerly an MBTA yard It's a block, basically. So it's bound by Washington Street, Bartlett Street, Guild Street, and Lambert Ave. And at full build out, this will provide 380 housing units and about 25,000 square feet commercial space. But it's going phase by phase. And we have 5 phases and even sub-phases within that. So quite a process when we came. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up quickly. When we came,
I'm back. I'm sorry. I have to log off and back on.
Oh, great. Well, I'm going to hand off, but I'll just mention that when we came in 2015, we had worked on 3 sides of the block: Washington Street, Bartlett Street, and Guild Street. And this rounds out the rest of the block, particularly Lambert Ave. And so I'll hand it off to Matt.
Thank you, David. Iman, you're on.
Yes, Todd, can I present? I think.
Go ahead, Iman.
I'm sorry
You can present.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. You may present your screen if you want.
Okay. Can you see the screen now?
No.
You can see my screen?
No. There you go.
Okay. Again, sorry for the confusion early on. You can see that?
Yes, thank you.
I'm not sure what David has presented earlier, but just give a quick overview of the project. Back in 2015, we were before you for the phase 1 infrastructure improvement for the Bartlett station development. Back then, we were before you for the improvement of a new roadway that went through the site, which has been built already, and the reconstruction of the sidewalks about halfway out on Bartlett Street, the entire Washington Street frontage, and partly on Guild Street. That was the extent of phase 1. So we're now before you to complete the loop around the entire development. So the proposal is to reconstruct the sidewalk along the remaining Guild Street, Lambert Ave, and the remaining piece of Bartlett. And a part of that as well on Lambert Ave, we are expanding the right-of-way. One of the petition is a right-of-way relocation. So we're giving piece of the land to right-of-way to allow for the addition of a 23 parking spaces, parallel parking spaces, along with street trees on both Lambert Ave and Bartlett Street. So we're adding 21 trees. So if I could go into the specifics. This is the plan for Lambert Ave. Basically, you could see the new sidewalk, which we're adding a 9-foot sidewalk along with the 23 parking spaces. There are a couple of utility poles and a single light pole that we're going to be we'll relocate to the where the new sidewalk is. We're also adding a cross connection for pedestrian from the west side of Lambert Ave. You can see on the screen here, we're adding a handicap ramp and a crosswalk and a handicap ramp to get onto the development. Adding crosswalks at the intersection of Lambert and Guild, as well as Lambert and Bartlett for the connectivity. If I go to the next slide, Guild Street is a complete. I'm sorry?
Can you go back? Thank you. So you have quite a few bump outs. You may want to check the geometry. We like to have reverse discuss so that it doesn't become a maintenance challenge. And can you explain the 2 bump outs?
The bump outs here came through PPDA review. One is to allow for the a crosswalk along from Lambert Street down to the new sidewalk. And so we wanted to create a separation for the pedestrian going between the cars. So we added the bump out in that location. We are on the review of Todd. We are rounding off the corners, to allow, to prevent being a low area to collect dirt or what have you. That's the reason for the first one. The second one, it was a comment from PPDA. They wanted an island for the curb, basically for the curb cut down to the development. Initially, we didn't have any bump outs. That's the reason.
So I think that your geometry leads work to Para's point. The bump out for the crossing is small, right? Like it should actually represent a clearing for a crossing, and the radiuses in and out of your bump outs are not what our standards are. So I think that the geometry of this all needs work.
Okay.
Amy, are you okay with the second two bump outs on the northern side?
I mean, to be totally honest, I don't know the history of them, but I don't necessarily have any sort of major opposition to them. I think that I'm more interested in that head crossing becoming more visible and wider.
Thank you, Amy. And I'm getting this bad echo here. The on-street parking spots, I hope you and the project owner recognizes that these are parking spots are at the discretion of the Boston Transportation Department as to how they regulate the street. They are not needed parking spots. Just because you have a bump out doesn't mean that it handcuffs the Transportation Department into the usage of it. I hope that understanding with you. Yes? Yes.
Can you repeat the question, Para? I'm sorry.
Okay. The parking spots which you are creating on Lambert Street, they are not needed parking spots. It is up to the discretion of the Transportation Department to regulate that curbside use as it meets the needs of the Transportation Department.
Diane, I mean, you have any comments on that? I mean, those parking spots have been part of the overall master plan when the development was presented to PPDA. It was always included in part of that study. Those parking spots. They are going to be used for public use, not for the project.
Yeah, Para, I can answer that question. This is Guy Blussert, Howard Stein's husband. We've been in discussions with Pat Coey to do a system-wide parking or curbside regulation for Lambert and the other streets that we're working on out here at Bartlett Yards, and that's in process. So yeah, those will be public parking spaces, not designated to the property.
Thank you, Mr. Busa. If you could clarify to the project proponents and others that any on-street parking is it's an option with the Transportation Department. They are the ones who get to regulate the curbside, and sometimes this little fact is lost in the translation.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope, Ms. Amy, if you could add or clarify the parking regulations on a public street to any person.
Yeah, it's going to be what BTD says it is, right? So like it's just that this isn't private parking, this is on-street parking. There can be discussion about, what that form is based on the neighborhood needs, but it will be at the discretion of BTD.
Yeah, it's going to be probably one of three things: either open parking, resident permit parking, city resident permit parking, or 2-hour parking because it's close, or it's some sort of regulation, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unregulated parking out in this area, so that's pretty common, but, like, we need to make sure that we have the appropriate accessible spaces and if there's, pickup drop-off components and stuff like that, but beyond that, like, it'll be worked out through their TAPA, but it'll be at what meets, it's not private.
Yeah, actually, these aren't subject to a specific TAPA, Amy.
Yeah, well,
Right.
we'll work it out with you in whatever document that form that takes, but they will not be private parking spaces, to your point, Paul.
Thank you, Amy. Imad, my next question. Appreciate the tremendous work that is being done by your team to keep this project moving. It's a wonderful project. In terms of street lighting, have you had a conversation with the Public Works Street Lighting Division to see whether the lightings are what it needs to be? Imad, I think you're on mute. You may want to unmute yourself.
Yes, we've had discussion with Boston Lighting. We are relocating one street light to the back. The rest of the entire street is lit, and most of the street lights are on the other side. And we asked, there was a question from PPDA on the adequacy of the lighting, and we ran it by Boston Lighting, specifically with Harvey Tristan, and looking at it, he feels it was adequate. It was adequate lights in that area.
Thank you, Imad.
Yep.
Questions by Commissioner members? Additional thoughts, concerns?
We'd like to request that the proponent, sorry, it's a little echoey in here. We'd like to request that the proponent take a look at the intersection specifically at Bartlett and sorry, apologies. I don't have the other street, Millmont Street, to see if we can split those ramps at that corner to make this intersection a little bit more pedestrian friendly. And additionally, we'd like information on the reciprocal ramps to ensure that they're compliant as well.
Yeah, to Sarah's point, I think that maybe the apex, was necessary, but now we've expanded the sidewalk and we can have perpendicular ramps.
Where?
Lambert, Millmont, and Guild.
Yeah, we looked at that. The problem with doing perpendicular ramps is the cross slope, because the roads are more than 2% cross slope. So if we do the perpendicular ramp, then the crosswalk is going to have more than 2%. Some places 5% cross slope, and that's the reason.
Yeah, no, I think that we need to see that, because you either have to meet our standards for apex ramps or not, or you have to go to get a variance. So I think that we need to understand the specific grading problems to see if you qualify to have apex ramps at this location, and if you don't, you have to go to the AAB.
Okay. So,
David, Diane, if you folks need anything, please reach out to Mr. Lyman. We'll help you to sort things out. Because this is a very exciting project. We want to be absolutely supportive of this. So let's just continue the conversations between your team and our team to take this to where it needs to be, which is a great place. Any further comments by commission members? Mr. Liming, any comments by your team from PSC staff or the audience?
No, we're all set. We'll continue working with the project team on the curb alignments and other issues.
Yes, it's a very exciting project, and let's do all that can be done to have a very successful public hearing. In 3 weeks, I hope Ms. Clark and David, if that is okay with you all, for April 15th? Yes?
April 15 would be great, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing all of you 3 weeks from today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda, item number 7, Maverick Square, Winthrop Street, Paris Street, Summer Street, East Boston, grant of location on a petition by Expertnet Systems, Inc.
Hey, good morning. Dave Hugasian, NBNC Project Manager on behalf of Externet Systems. Am I unmuted and visible here?
You are seen and we can hear you, David.
Great. I'm showing up as Externet's Google account.
It's okay.
For a moment. So joined by Dan Ryan, NBNC Engineering Manager, and Keenan Brin of our site dev team. So Dan, if you want to pull up our plan, our schematic. So this is a fiber development project, part of Externet's ongoing effort in the city to upgrade, expand their distributed antenna system, or DAS, for their wireless customers. Those being major players you're familiar with: AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. So just to give you an overview of the trenching. This is basically the first dig out of the hub on Paris Ave. It's about a foot wide, stretches approximately 786 feet. We track east across Winthrop, down Maverick Square, and it terminates on Sumner, where it will be fed or transition aerially to small cell nodes in the area. So just in the course of our application process, we've conferred with Sarah at the Disabilities Commission. It's nice to meet you, Sarah. I see you there. To address ADA parking compliance, access to the sidewalks during construction, restoration of crosswalks, after construction. Believe we've met her concerns, but if not, feel free to speak up. On top of that, as we cross Sumner, we cross in front of the Maverick Square MBTA station. So we're in concert with them with filing the appropriate applications, for being in proximity to their property, and let's say and also in our course of business, we're in concert with Boston Water and Sewer, and them approving our plans, prior to us submitting this. So, kind of a generic overview of the project, but if it's all the same to everyone, I'd just like to open it right up to comments or questions on the trenching or project in general.
Thank you, David. David, it's been a little bit of time since the city invested millions of dollars improving Maverick Square, the Maverick Station, that whole area. And I like to see those investments last as long as possible. So at the same time, absolutely realistic when folks like you have to, dig up our investments. Very much like David is for you all to feel like you are chopping up your own assets, which is to exercise care and control and oversight of the construction, and more specifically, the restoration of the work. I'm sure, David, if you go around Boston or elsewhere, some of the utility cut restoration work leaves something to be desired, and it is not what we should have in this great city of ours. So I ask of you to exercise full care and consideration wherever you are chopping up, whether it is black road surface or a sidewalk or a crosswalk, where if there are specialty materials, please take on the task of replacing it and put it back the way you found it. Because we don't have infinite resources to go clean up things.
Understood, and comments like these are always passed on to our client, who's developing these areas. Excellent in this, for
yes,
sure.
So, interestingly, it is you who we see, and it is you who is petitioning us. So as much as you are trying to serve your clients, we want to maintain the fabulous relationships that are there between US company, US service and us. So help us to keep wonderful relationships into the future by ensuring that the contractors who are doing the work are not overseeing some of the things that they should be able to see.
Yeah, and on that same note, if there are instances where you think you need to, communicate some of those things, feel free to pass them through us or with us, so we make sure that those messages are received.
Thank you, David. Always appreciate honest dialogue.
Sure.
Comments by fellow commission members. Hearing none, PIC staff.
We're all set with this for now.
Excellent. We'll see you in 3 weeks on April 15th.
All right, thanks very much for having us.
That concludes the business of the day. Let me hear a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Well done. Have a safe day. Take care.